So a while back, I was taking a class at Austin Community College. I was attending there. I got out of the military and had moved to Austin after a while. And I was taking an ethics class, and we were going over the topic of justice. And I figured, if justice is a principle that people receive that which they deserve, then criminal justice should be a principle that when people commit a crime, they will receive the punishment which they deserve. We use many factors to make this determination in a modern justice setting. We ask ourselves every day when we see crimes that take place if the punishment is fitting for the damage caused by said crime. We know that if we go too light for the consequences, that there was not enough justice, and that if we go too harsh with the penalty for the crime, then it's possibly cruel and unusual. An example I give with this is the priorities the state has with how they treat cannabis versus other issues in the state. In Texas, cannabis is a Class B misdemeanor if you have 2 ounces or under of flower, and that carries a harsher punishment than littering a 5-gallon bucket of trash. That's a health and safety code. And then there's harsher punishments than an adult giving an elementary age child a gun they carry into a school as long as they don't hurt anybody with it, which is part of our penal code. Literally, it's a Class C misdemeanor for both of those things. So they face lesser punishments than you would if you were caught having flour on you in the state of Texas. What can people do to make a difference? Well, by the time that this would be published and distributed, the elections will have already taken place and be decided. That's the first place people can start. And this next part is why I would say the local races matter just as much as the state level and federal level. Your local races can easily make or break a possible local ballot initiative. Local elections can put people in office that pay attention to what issues police officers are to focus on in the community. But once elections are over, people should be paying attention to their advocacy organizations and when they plan to rally for a cause. A rally for the cause can be weekly initiatives to hand out information at the Capitol to elected officials. It can be committee hearings on bills. Nothing shows a need and want from a community looking for change than having a committee room full of people waiting to testify and people lined in the hall of the Capitol waiting to get in and say their part for a bill. And then even showing up to register for a bill on the docket to be heard makes a world of difference. You make sure you've set yourself up to get some updates from them so you can write letters and know when they're going to be holding lobby days, and that when people will be going to large groups of their elected officials in their offices to show their support for the cause. What's in it for me when I participate in these activities? This is something I've been asked by farmers quite a bit when the hemp program started up in Texas in late 2019. And, our first grow season began in the spring of 2020. And I get that I've spent a lot of my life and a good bit of it moving from metro area to metro area because I was in the military. But my upbringing is that of rural Harper, Texas. I was raised by a man that lived through the Great Depression and was resourceful as much as he could be. And I know what the life is like in a town where there is no major industrial economy to support the people in times of need. I know that programs like these can help farmers and ranchers alike with a crop that can be utilized on so many fronts. And I would like my stomping grounds to see growth, if possible, and that growth extends to other local businesses as well. And there's a saying that goes, all boats are lifted with a rising tide. So, as well as a disabled veteran, I'll be honest and note that I received disability compensation from the VA. If I wanted to, I could sit at home all day, play video games. I could be streaming that content and just earning a couple of bucks on the side. But, I think my time is better spent trying to help out the state economy, which then helps the economy for the country overall. The more money people are able to make across the population, the easier it is to help with the funding for disabled veterans. That money goes in the pot for the VA and to help pay for their compensation. And, the damage that was done during their time in service. Beyond that, I think it also sets a good example for my son. I have a young son who just turned 10, and I want to show him how he can put in hard work and he can see how his hard work can affect his community and quality of life with just his own voice. Why should the state decriminalize beyond the ethics standpoint of justice? So, I think, our police officers have better things to spend their time on. And I think that our government has better things to spend its money on other than cannabis arrest. Examples, 2016, Harris County, that's where Houston is located. They reported that annually that over $26.6 million was being spent on cannabis possession cases alone. That's just one county. And, if we take the estimated cost for things such as district attorney, an indigent offense, just those things alone, and we apply that to the 2018 numbers of having roughly 96,000 cannabis possession cases and arrests in 2018, the cost for the state is just over $67 million. Jail costs are about 2.75 of that amount that's added on top of it. So for those three alone, the total is now $184.86 million, if I remember correctly. And that still leaves out crime labs, police, and court costs. The state is likely looking at $250 million that could have been spent elsewhere rather than a nonviolent crime where the victims are created by the state's prohibition measures. The federal government has admitted in hearings now that the cartel was getting its drug power from the U.S., creating a prohibition on cannabis. So why not take away the cartel's power while spending this money on more serious issues in the state? I mean, this is the same county that reported their numbers, even noted that violent crimes do not get the same attention cannabis does, yet the streets aren't safer because of cannabis prohibition. So to me, it just makes sense from even a fiscally conservative point that you would want to decriminalize this and take care of this issue in a different way rather than keeping it prohibited where you try to throw people in jail for it.